Hello and welcome to Business on the Wire. A few days back, a group of 15 startup founders held a meeting with the Competition Commission of India, or CCI, and presented their point of view on what they believe have been anti competitive policies employed by Google in India. The trouble seemed to have started when Google temporarily delisted India's largest fintech app, that's Paytm, from its Play Store and then announced a 30% commission on in app purchases of digital goods. To understand what's really happened and what this could mean for users and, of course, for the startup community, joining me now is Nikhil Pava, who's founder of Media Nama and a digital rights voice. Thank you, Nikhil, for joining in. I want to contextualize what's happening with Google and a lot of startup founders and take you back to that fatal day when Paytm was, pulled off from Google's Play Store. What was the problem? And would you say that was sort of the catalytic moment where things began to really get heated between this very large behemoth and the startup industry?
Well, I don't think that specific instance impacted the startup industry as a whole, but it impacted one segment.
Yeah.
Itali, so Google on its Play Store doesn't allow any real money gaming apps, and real money gaming apps are those from which you can, if you win money, you can withdraw cash from them.
Yeah.
And with the advent of digital payments in India, it's much easier to do because they can just send it to your bank account through UPI or something of that sort, right? So Google doesn't allow it. And what had happened was that because the IPL, which is the Indian Premier League, it was just about to start, there were a bunch of promotions that were going on across the startup ecosystem. So there was something on Zomato, there was something on Swiggy, and they were giving, and there was something on Paytm First Games. Now, Google issued a note reminding people of its real money gaming policies, and the same day removed the Paytm app from the Play Store.
Yeah.
Now, Paytm has a real money gaming app called Paytm First Games. And so what happened was that, from what I understand from my conversation with several people in the space, was that because Paytm was enabling the downloads of and enabling the winning of money from Paytm First Games on its core app, it was doing indirectly what it was not being allowed to do directly. So what Google does is that, and this is something which I heard happen in the past as well, when Dream 11's other apps were taken off, and Dream 11 is probably India's largest real money gaming service, those apps were pulled off the Play Store because they were enabling downloads of Dream 11 from the app.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like surrogate advertising. And in this case, it was like surrogate gaming through Paytm. And so the basic principle that Google was applying was that what you can't do directly, you can't do indirectly. Now, while this happened, they had also issued notices to the Times of India group, which has multiple really large and popular properties like Ghana for music, CricPass for cricket scores, and the Mobile Premier League, which is another real money gaming service, was advertising on that. Now, the logic was that Times of India has 3% stake in the Mobile Premier League, and so Google was treating that as surrogate advertising as well. So it was just enforcing its policy, saying that what you can't do directly, you can't do indirectly, and therefore all these apps had to be taken off. Paytm, from what I understood, had got at least 3 or 4 warnings before it was pulled, and it hadn't complied. They complied and they were back up. But Vijay Shekhar Sharma, the founder of Paytm, used this opportunity to go out and call out Google's dominance in the space.
Yeah.
And with something as powerful, as huge, as impactful as Paytm getting removed, every founder in the country would be thinking that this could happen to me too, that Google can remove the app. And where I think it's where the entire thing got triggered, where everyone got involved, was when Google issued a notice saying that it is going to impose its 30%
Payment.
fee
Yeah.
um, on various apps and services that are enabling, digital goods and services, payment for digital goods and services on the Google Play, on Android apps.
Yeah.
And these apps have to specifically use the Google in-app billing for that purpose. Now, the way it works with in-app billing is that if you can only use Google's in-app billing, it means you have to pay Google 30%.
Yeah.
So, for many founders, it was effectively where they could otherwise use other payment gateways and basically keep most of the money with just 1.5% charges. Now, Google was going to take 30%. Now, Google does this across the world,
Yeah.
but it hasn't enforced this policy in India in the past because it didn't have an adequate payment system. And you have to view this alongside another global battle going on between Apple and Google versus Epic Games, where Epic Games is challenging the monopolistic or the duopoly of Google and Apple in app stores, saying that they don't want to pay 30%. So there's an antitrust case that has been filed. There are conversations that are happening around antitrust against both Google and Apple because of the dominance uh, of the app stores.
Yeah.
And so, in order to show that their policy is implemented across the board, my guess is that this is why Google announced the imposition of this policy across the world, including India. And that has led to a whole series of events in India.
Yeah. So let's cut to the here and now, Nikhil, which is that we have these 15 startups, including Paytm, that have gone to CCI, or the Competition Commission. And as you mentioned, one primary concern is the payment of this 30% surcharge. They also say that phones with Google's, and I'm just reading out, some of what their points of view are. Phones with Google's Android operating system are preloaded with the Play Store app distribution. That gives them an inherent advantage.
Yes.
As someone has also pointed out, more than 95% of India's digital population is accessing the internet through Google. So my question is, A, are these legitimate concerns? And B, given the global context that you just pointed out, what can CCI do over here?
So let's just first start with how this began, right? When Google announced this policy, Murugavel Janakiraman, who's the founder of matrimony.com, which is a site where people find people to marry, and it's a listed company in India, and he's one of the oldest founders in the sense he started, I think, in the 90s. So that pedigree, that survival, he said that that the ecosystem needs to come together, and he sent this message on a group that Vijay Shekhar Sharma had created about a month or so before this happened, in order to just allow founders to connect with each other on a WhatsApp group. So Muruga's comment, and Muruga's been fighting a battle against Google for many, many years. Google's only CCI loss in India was with the case that both Matrimony and Kutch International filed against Google.
Yeah.
I mean, Google got away with a minor fine, and it is still contesting that. Frankly, they should have been penalized for more because of the vertical integration. But Muruga in 2009, and I remember reporting on this, had gone to court against the dominance of AdWords, saying that Google dominates that space, and they basically were allowing competitors to bid for advertising on keywords that were related to matrimony. Muruga lost the case, went to the Supreme Court. That case is stuck there, but won at the CCI. So when Muruga called for this, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, just fresh off this battle with Google, set up a call, and around 56 founders turned up, on a very short notice. And the complaints were pretty straightforward. One is this dominance issue that Google is the internet in India, but more importantly, the Google Play Store determines what is the internet in India. If you think about it, 99% of India's internet access is on mobile devices, right? About the 20 billion broadband connections, wireline broadband connections, and about 680 odd million mobile internet connections. Android has 95% of the handset market through all its partnerships. So everything goes through the Play Store, everything goes through mobile. And so effectively, this charge of 30% is going to be imposed on everything. There was a call with the IT secretary Ajay Sani that subsequent Friday, and again, aside that subsequent Saturday, and again a complaint was raised by Map My India about how when you search on Google, then the first for an address, Google shows Google Maps results first, and not Map My India as an example, right? So Google dominates search, it dominates through Android, it dominates devices, it forces installation of its services on all of these handsets, so it has the part of the default and the scale that brings, and also it prioritizes the Google Play Store. It doesn't allow any other app stores to be promoted on the Google Play Store. If you run an app store, you can't upload an app store app on the Google Play Store. So that dominance that Google has extends from search to advertising to devices to apps and app stores. And it's using this entire vertical integration across the value chain to increase its dominance. And now it's imposing a tax. So Google is being basically treated like is being positioned as the government because it has complete control. And the argument was today they're only doing it for digital goods. Tomorrow they could do it for offline sales also. Today they're charging 30%. Tomorrow they could charge 50%. Do founders have a choice? And what Google also does from a security perspective is that if you leave the Google, if you, let's say, download an app from outside the Play Store, from the web, let's say, from, let's say, a company's own website, then Android gives a warning, do you really want to install this app? Because it has not been downloaded from the Play Store. So effectively, that creates a disincentive for the consumer. It creates a fear in the consumer's mind that I don't want to download this. So everything has been routed through the Play Store, and that's where the 30% commission is coming in, right? Dream11, for example, it's not allowed on the Play Store because it's a real money gaming app, but even when someone's trying to install it through an ad, let's say on Hotstar, Google would give a warning. Google, from what I understand, has issued new guidelines on advertising, saying that the user has to check, click a checkbox saying that they agree that they're downloading an app outside the Play Store and take on risk for that. So you're being warned to do, basically consumers are being told Google Play Store is the only safe place where you can download apps, and everything's being routed to that. So, that's the problem for founders. If, let's say, like the argument that Muruga was making was that 30% of my revenue goes into advertising to acquire customers. Now, when I acquire customers and they're making a payment, you want 30% of that money as well. How will I survive? See, India is a low revenue market. Most companies operate on wafer thin margins. If Google charges this much money, they'll never survive. My point is that at this point in time, this should be less about how much they're charging. This is more about how much control they have.
Yeah.
Because they can effectively they can pick winners or losers if their search on the App Store is not neutral. And there have been allegations that, again, Google is prioritizing its own results on Google search. It's prioritizing its own results on the App Store. So that monopoly has to be broken. And I think the CCI needs to look at this very, very seriously.
Yeah.
Because you need to have multiple competing ecosystems in place for there to be fair competition.
I want to talk about end user impact, if at all there is any, Nikhil. But before that, since we don't have a reaction from Google, what we have is the Communique that they've been involved in deep discussions with Indian startup owners for 30 days. They've given them a 6-month extension, and B, their own argument that this new billing policy impacts only 3% of the apps on Play Store. How would one contend that? Is it that they are picking up the the highest performers and saying, okay, guys, now that you're on my platform, you got to pay a price to be there? Or do you think this is actually going to extend to everyone, as you were saying?
So look, this is going to extend to everyone. Google might say that it impacts only 3% of apps, but I mean, I'd ask Google in return, how many apps on the Play Store are actually only advertising driven and not and don't have a transaction fee involved? If it basically, what Google is trying to say is that this impacts the entire subscription base. And frankly, it means all digital commerce businesses that don't have a physical delivery are going to get impacted. And why is it that people now, even if you depend only on advertising, most of your dependency is again going to be on the dominant player, which is Google. So Google makes its money either way. And in fact, this would nudge people more towards the advertising ecosystem, because 30% of transaction fee is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Most companies don't have those margins. I think Google needs to come clean on this. They need to become a little more transparent about what their revenue structure is like. They need to become transparent about how they prioritize apps and on the Play Store. They need to decouple the Play Store from Android, because they have a clear issue of dominance over there. There needs to be a freer mechanism in terms of why is it that the Google services are mandated for anyone uh, you know uh, putting out an Android device? There needs to be more competition in all of those spaces. If effectively, look, on the flip side, I know that Vijay Shekhar Sharma has gone out and likened them to the East India Company, called it digital colonization. I think that's a bit unfair. As much as I don't like Google's dominance and the policies that it has, one also needs to keep in mind that Google has helped develop the internet ecosystem in India. It was they invested a lot. They had a product team in Bangalore that did a lot of work on Indian language content, when very few companies were able to make that scale. You had, if you think about the early days of e-commerce, Google grew the e-commerce space in India with the Great Indian Shopping Festival.
Yeah.
So Google has put its might behind helping the same ecosystem grow. They have grown in the process as well. By trying to replace them or kick them out, or or trying to say that they're a colonizing force. I mean, my question to Vijay Shekhar Sharma is, if he was in Google's position of dominance, what would he do? Right? And doesn't Paytm also want to gain that kind of a dominant position, and doesn't it also want to charge that fee? I think I think everyone who is dominant ends up being in a situation where they want to optimize growth, optimize revenue. Every business does that. That's a responsibility to their shareholders. If you remember, just just last year, there was this big face-off between Zomato and restaurants. Zomato is the dominant player along with Swiggy in food ordering, and restaurants pushed back regarding how much Zomato was leveraging the dominance it had to offer more to consumers at times to the detriment of the restaurants.
Yeah.
So if you have a situation where look, all platforms are in the business of increasing fragmentation and monetizing aggregation, and the way that functions is that every single entity in that space has low negotiating power, and the only entity that is powerful is the platform itself. As a consumer, can we afford to leave the Google ecosystem? It's extremely difficult. As an app developer, can you afford to leave the Google ecosystem? In India, you probably can't. So the only one that has negotiating ability is the platform, and it is that dominance that regulation needs to address.
Is the consumer in the same situation as the Zomato versus the restaurateurs, Nikhil, or is this different? Should I care about this fight between Google and what's happening with the Play Store? Will it impact me, or should I just sit back and watch them, sort of do the heavy and hustle?
I think from a consumer perspective, it's very difficult to determine the long-term effect of this. What are the kinds of apps that are not available to you because Google doesn't allow them? So I'll give you a small example from the TV space.
Yeah.
And there is a case in CCI related to Android's dominance as well. Now, I prefer to use Firefox as my browser, and Firefox for TV is not available on the Google Play Store on Android TVs. And I use an alternative app store called Actiode to download Firefox for TV. Now, it's a different question. Why would anyone use a browser on a TV? But the fact is that there are several apps that are available outside of the Google Play Store. Now, why doesn't Google allow these? I don't know. So, and most people who do use the Google Play Store and don't realize that you can install another app store on your device don't really know that there is a choice. So, consumer choice is being throttled by these platforms. These platforms aren't necessarily neutral. In the past, and they have justified instances of removing apps by saying that they're doing it in the interest of consumers. But how much accountability is there? None, because they're not the government. But they have the power that they, in the sense that they're governing our usage of apps. Um, and if you just take a step back, there's also very little competition on the operating system level. So back in 2010, 2012, I think Stephen Elop, who had become the CEO of Nokia, talked about the burning platform issue, where Nokia left its own operating system ecosystem and basically jumped onto the Windows Mobile space in order to create a third alternative, because Apple was happy with its own set of unique, small, high-paying users, and Google had basically played the Microsoft game, and what Microsoft did with Windows, and expanded to multiple handset manufacturers and was dominating the space. So Stephen Elop's philosophy was that there needs to be a third platform. That third platform, the company best positioned to do that is Microsoft, and Nokia jumped onto the Windows Mobile bandwagon, and it failed. Android won. And now the world has only two choices. Either you pay through your nose to get an Apple device, or you have to contend with an Android device. And this has geopolitical concerns, if you think about it, right? Last year, Trump banned Huawei, and Android updates weren't being sent to Huawei. And under those circumstances, China has developed its own operating system. Huawei has done it, called the Harmony OS. I don't think that's been released yet, but the point is that the entire Android ecosystem in China was under threat of not receiving security updates because the US determined that it can't. So in that sense, there has to be accountability, there has to be reduced dependency on US-based operating systems. And my point is, why don't we have an Indian operating system? There's something called the Indus OS, which was experimented with a while back. Even globally, there were two other operating systems that came out and failed. One was the Firefox OS, which also launched in India with, I think, Lava and Intex in the early part of the last decade. And there was Ubuntu Mobile, which probably didn't see much distribution at all. Google won the operating system battle. It's using that leverage of the operating of that it has with that operating system to push all the other levels, all the other services that it has. And I think that needs to be challenged. We don't have an alternative, and I know there's talk of an Indian app store, but to my mind, I don't think they should stop at an app store. It needs to move to an operating system issue as well.
Because of the global context, though, Nikhil, what realistically do you think CCI can do? They can take suo motu cognizance, of course, but what else can they do? Also, given the fact that in India, in the tech and data space in the last 12 months, frankly, there have been a very large number of very, very big players coming together and engaging in partnerships. So, in some other sort of concentric circles, we do have a monopoly-like situation, which is what Google can easily point to.
No, and I think there isn't a monopoly-like situation, at least in internet access, because Airtel is Airtel and Jio are clearly competing.
A duopoly.
But at least, so, I'm sorry.
A duopoly, so.
No, but even Vodafone Idea, even though it's declining, is still got a large number of users. They also have a high amount of data consumption happening on their service. In terms of the investments that have been made by both Facebook and Google, from a CCI perspective, I don't think that should really matter. They need to look at practices that Google is following in terms of discouraging the growth of alternate app stores. I know that Google has announced that they will allow deeper integration of alternate app stores and Android in the future. But frankly, that's only a response to the antitrust situation. They've enjoyed that duopoly for a very long time. Um, I think vertical integration in particular needs to be looked at very, very strongly, because Google, it's similar to what happened with Microsoft and Internet Explorer in the 90s, where Microsoft was actively pushing the Internet Explorer. Google can come and say that anyone can allow any app, but they're leveraging that reach that they have. They're leveraging the power that Android has to increase dominance of their own services. Today, Google has the largest app store, the largest operating system, the two or three largest search engines, if you count the App Store as a search engine, the largest advertising platform, and all of these are playing with each other to increase their dominance. And I guess competition theory needs to evolve to include, the harms of dominance, not just the harms of abuse of dominance. There's been a sense of arbitrariness with which Google has also imposed its policies, and I think that arbitrariness also needs to be challenged. So there's a lot to be done here, in terms of the vertical integration. And for me, that was the failure of the CCI ruling in 2018 or 17, I think it was, with the Bharat Matrimony case, where CCI did not look into aspects of vertical integration.
So there's the battle has also spread into the smart TV space, Nikhil. First of all, should the smart TV space be seen as separate from TVs? Secondly, the problem for a lot of the phone manufacturers there is that if I partnered with Google and set up an Android phone, I'm not allowed to go and partner with somebody else when I get into the smart TV space, which is what they're contesting as well. Is it a similar situation over there where they're just sort of, building their own space with none left for the others?
I think that's happening in the smart TV space for sure. I mean, most smart TVs are either Android or a version of Android, or with a few other features built on top of them. And somewhere that it's a bit early to look at the smart TV space, because I think the proliferation of smart TVs isn't very vast. Somehow I'm just a little more skeptical when these cases come up really early in the life cycle, where you're not able to prove dominance. And Google could very well argue over there that the market that they're looking at is all TVs, and not necessarily just smart TVs. And typically what happens is, when the Competition Commission looks at issues, they look at the first part that they have to determine is, what's the market that we're looking at. Second is, what is is there dominance in that market? And third is there abuse of dominance? So a lot of this depends on determining what the market is. If the market is all TVs, I think Google might get away with this. But if it's only smart TVs, then I guess in India, Google is a dominant player in the smart TV space. I mean, they have, if you look at OnePlus, you look at Xiaomi, all of these platforms have a version of Android that's operating. And again, it's going to be a trickier one. I think the App Store one, the Android issue, is a far easier issue for the CCI to resolve, because it's just so much clearer and there's so much history to look at. The complaints, we're going to see many more complaints coming to the CCI on this. And I don't think this is just a CCI issue, because the founders have also gone to the IT ministry. And I know of at least one complaint that's being drafted right now.
Hmm. In fact, that's what I was coming to. Yesterday there was a report from the Financial Times, Nikhil, saying the European Union regulators are making, and I quote, a hit list of up to
Hmm.
20 large internet companies, and that includes, Facebook, Apple,
Yeah.
Google. They will face new and tougher rules aimed at curbing their market power. I know you've never been a big fan of governmental intervention, but do you think that's the direction in which this is headed? Perhaps for every individual nation to decide themselves, but stepping on so many toes is going to lead for the government to step into this as well.
Look, we're going to see more government intervention and more regulation of platforms going forward. We had an issue related to Facebook earlier this year, and there are committees that have looked into it. I deposed before two of them. You're seeing there is a lot of pushback against Amazon. I think what we're also seeing, if you think about it, is the advent of tech nationalism in India. Where a bunch of these arguments are taking on an India versus the world kind of sentiment, and it's what is also very clear from my conversations with at least 15 founders over these issues is that they are very determined to push to organize and push back against these dominant players. So solutions that I'm hearing from them are, for example, very clearly there's going to be an Indian Internet Association that is formed, which does not have participation from these multinational corporations. The exact phrase was that we want them to speak for Indian founders and not speak for MNCs. So there's an association that's probably going to be formed. In fact, from what I understand, names are being discussed. Um, there was this argument that Google should be forced to in India to do what Trump has done with TikTok in the US, which is that have them register an Indian company and have an Indian investor, because TikTok has had to give up, I think, 20% stake to Walmart and also Oracle. Another idea was just the way Maruti has listed in India, and it is an Indian company, therefore with Indian investors. Then why can't you force these companies to to register and list in the Indian market and become an Indian company and be accountable to Indian law? CCI obviously is another option that was discussed, and the again the easiest option that was being discussed was having an Indian app store. And just a couple of days after this hit the news, Paytm launched its own app store, and or it called a previous product that it had, it called it an app store, and held a developer conference to try and encourage more and more developers to also come onto the Paytm platform. And that they're saying is free for now. But my point is, if that becomes dominant, then why won't Paytm also charge a fee? So there is just the machinations that are taking place right now. Uh, Also with the Atmanirbhar app challenge, the ban on the Chinese apps, there is a strong sense of nationalism in the tech ecosystem. So we are going to see this play out over the next 2 to 3 years, is my opinion.
Uh, Fascinating chatting with you as always, Nikhil. And I want to sort of end on an unrelated note, but on the point that you made about how so many of these large tech conversations have really come front and center this year. It happened with Facebook, it's happening now with Google in some form. Everyone's talking about the social dilemma, the documentary that everyone's seen and is quite shook after. Do you think it's time for regular just end users and consumers to start becoming a lot more aware about what's happening behind the scenes? I know there's of course layers to internet users, but do you think people need to start asking more questions about what's happening with their data, what the large data users are doing, or what the large tech companies are doing really?
Look, all of these businesses are built on data, in the sense they are creating products to serve us at times better, at times to serve their own needs. And what we need is transparency and accountability. We are probably going to see a reworking of the IT Act starting next year, and so you're going to see a very different kind of governance of the internet in India. I mean, my sense is the last 2 years have been fairly hectic, and you're seeing more governmental involvement in the tech space. And some of it is not without reason. but I think it's important for everyone not just to get involved in, or not just to understand how their data is being used, but also to get involved in government processes that are defining the policies that define how we use the internet, because it's on us to ensure that our access is as open and fair and as global. I mean, I certainly don't want India to become the next China from that perspective.
Always such a pleasure speaking with you, Nikhil. Thank you so much for joining in and having this chat with me.
Thanks, Mitali. Always great fun. Thanks.